Dad's cheating left me picking up the pieces, so I told him exactly how I feel, sending him into depression. I, 18 male, am an only child. I live with my mom full-time, my parents are divorced. Some quick context, during my entire life my mom always picked up after me and my dad. They both worked full-time, but my mom handled breakfast, lunch, dinner, groceries, cleaning, laundry. What did my dad do? Mow the lawn, shovel snow, fix things like the sink if it ever broke. When I was younger I always loved my dad, cause he would do fun things with me. Take me to sports games, play with me in the yard sometimes, buy me MC Donald's or ice cream. He was the fun parent, and my mom was the caring one. She always made me food, helped me in school, packed my bags, comforted me when I was sad and took care of me when I was sick. When I got older I started to realize more and more how much my mom did, while my dad would sit on the couch and watch TV or stuff like that. My mom asked me when I was quite young to help her out with cleaning etc., and I remember I would get mad at me when she asked. I didn't want to clean, who does? But one day after she had gotten annoyed I didn't even pick up after myself, I yelled at her to leave me alone. I was probably like 12, and that day I heard her cry in the bathroom afterwards. When I realized I made her cry, it clicked in my head that she was doing everything for us and Dad did barely anything, and I did absolutely nothing at all. It felt like I grew up super quickly over the course of a week, and I started helping my mom a lot more. It became a bonding thing for us, talking and helping each other out with cleaning and groceries etc. My dad was still like the fun parent, would take me to games and all that, but I grew more and more annoyed that he didn't help out at all. I think when I was like 14 I once said to his face that he never helps out around the house, and he got furious with me. Yelled in my face and sent me to my room. My mom comforted me and told me to just let him be, you and I got this alone anyway. The few times he was dragged into helping he would always make a mess somehow, and it would end in an argument with him and mom. I've realized now he most likely did a bad job on purpose so we wouldn't ask him for help. When I was 15, mom found out that dad cheated. He had been for like a year, they had the biggest fight ever, and my dad left us that night to live with his mistress and her daughter from a previous marriage. He came a few days after and picked most of his stuff up. I don't remember much how the divorce went, other than my mom being a wreck. When it was finalized, she honestly broke down even more. I fed her, helped her into the shower, held her at night. I've never seen her that bad, and if I didn't hate my dad for what he had done in general, I started absolutely despising him for what he did to mom. Family from mom's side would help us too, but it was mostly me since no one could really move in and stay with us full time. I picked up a job at 16 to help at home. It took my mom maybe half a year to start going back to her old self. She grew up to be better, happier, and I had never seen her so full of life when she was with dad. A month or two after the divorce was over my dad started pushing for me to live with him 50% of the time. I told him to f/ck off basically, but mom said I shouldn't shut him out completely. So I went to him every other weekend. He tried to be all nice to me and so did his mistress, but I hated their guts. The mistress, let's call her Hannah, tried to be nice to me but also bossed me around, and I basically ignored her. She has a daughter from a previous marriage who tried to bond with me, but I ignored her. Barely even a year after the divorce was over, Hannah got pregnant, and they had another daughter. Dad and Hannah have tried to push for me to be a big brother for them, but I couldn't care about them less. Now I'm 18, and I gradually stopped going to my dad's. I barely ever stay a night, I just visit, and my dad keeps trying to blame my mom for it. Hannah gives me more and more attitude and tries to use her daughters to guilt me into staying over, saying they miss their big brother. You're so selfish. We had a big confrontation when I visited last. I stayed for 20 minutes before Hannah started trying to lecture me, so I just started leaving. Dad blocked my way and told me I have to grow up and leave the past in the past. He said I can't be mad forever and him acting as if I don't love him, and we're all family. That just set me off. I started screaming at him that I haven't loved him in years. I told him that he was always a lazy boss who acted more like a child than a husband to mom. She always cleaned up after him, cleaned the house alone, washed his clothes, made him food, fetched him another beer even though the kitchen was 5 steps away. But all that ever came out of his mouth was complaints and demands. I told him he took me out to do fun things, sure, but that's not all there is to be a dad. He was never there for me, helped me in school, drove me anywhere or picked me up, comforted me, and then he did the worst possible thing. After years of standing on my mother's back and using her, he went and f/to a random woman and absolutely broke her, mom. I screamed about how a kid had to pick up the pieces of his own mother cause his father was such a boss and useless garbage. I felt nothing for him, in fact I hated his guts still, and I hated his mistress too. I turned to Hannah and told her that she means nothing to me, she has no authority over me, I don't give a sh/t about her or her kids. I told them both I wish nothing bad at their daughters, but Hannah is a horrible person for filling her kids' heads with lies about how I'm their brother when I've repeatedly told them I'm not. Then I looked my dad in the eyes and said my father died to me years ago, and that man wasn't even a good dad. You're just a stranger to me. I pushed my way past him and left. When I got home I told my mom everything and cried. She hugged me and told me she understands my emotions but wishes I wasn't so aggressive, for my own sake. My mom has never said a bad thing about my dad despite everything, and when I would curse him out she always told me it wasn't worth it. My dad and his new family were silent for a few days, but then Hannah started bombarding me with texts about how I was a horrible son and how my dad hasn't stopped crying since. I know he always wanted a son and wanted a close bond, but has failed me as a father and I don't care. But family from Hannah's side I've met like once or not at all have also started messaging me saying I was out of line and everyone makes mistakes. But I don't think it's a mistake, I genuinely think my dad's a boss and I don't owe him anything. But I guess all the hate from so many people has me doubting myself, maybe I should have just left without a word. Update 1. I know it hasn't been long since I posted, but I quickly got so many NTA and people who agreed with me that I acted pretty fast. I wrote out a long text to my dad that looks like this. Hey Dad. I know what I said yesterday was very harsh, but I'm not apologizing for it. Growing up you made it clear what a partner and husband shouldn't be. Even though mom and you worked the same hours, you were always entitled to your alone time and your rest while she was left to pick up after the whole family. I realized at a young age that mom needed help, and every time I picked up your old socks or put your dishes away I got more and more annoyed at what a lazy boss you are. A 12-year-old did more housework than his father, let that sink in. You went and did fun things with me, I acknowledge and did appreciate that. But that's not all there is to be a parent. I needed you other times, when I was sick, sad, stressed, needed help with homework, or even just talking to you. I know you always wanted a good father and son bond, but we never actually talked. Not small talk, proper conversations. I honestly feel like you don't even know who I truly am. But when I went to you with anything, you told me to go to mom because you had a long day at work. I hope for your new daughter's sake that you start picking up your sh/t after yourself. I can't stand Hannah, but I somehow also hope she doesn't get stuck in the loop of scrubbing your back and holding your spoon when you eat, never allowed to ask for a favor and rest. You need to tell her to get her family to stop harassing me about this, or I'm blocking you all, you included. Hannah has no authority over me and I have no respect for her because she slept with a married man. She also is not entitled to a relationship with me. I've always tried to be polite but not welcoming because I don't see her as anything other than your mistress. She needs to get that through her head, and like I said, I will never wish anything bad onto her daughters, but I am not their family. You filling their head with that BS is only causing them harm. Get that through your head. If you're unhappy in your marriage, you either try to work it out, go to therapy, or split on whatever terms. You don't cheat on your partner like a scumbag. It doesn't matter how you felt for Hannah and mom at the time, you should have split with mom before pursuing Hannah. MF King 18 years old and even I know that. If the texts don't stop today, I'm blocking every last one of you. I'm already blocking Hannah's family, but I'm keeping you and her unblocked for whatever reason. This is not me forgiving you, don't think we can work through this. Because we can't. I'm not visiting you for a while, and if I ever want to again, it will be on my terms. This is not up for negotiation, and again, if you try to pressure me or guilt trip me, I will literally just never speak to you again. I hope you go to therapy and get fully torn down so you can build yourself up to be someone worthy of respect. Because right now you're not. Now leave me alone. After like 3 or 4 hours Dad responded, I understand, and nothing else. The random texts have stopped. I don't know. I sort of feel free but also sad. I'm not burning the bridge fully, but I'm also done with their BS. So yeah, that's where I stand right now. Thanks for listening. Some people questioned if I'm really 18 lol, and I get that. It's not like I wrote this text to my dad out in 10 minutes and sent it. I spent an hour writing it and my mom helped read it and let me know if it was good. I've always liked books and reading as a kid. My mom never baby talked me, so I started speaking proper sentences really early. She always brags about that lol. Update 2. I thought I understand was going to be the last thing I heard from him for a long time. A week went by with nothing, and honestly the quiet felt like a blanket. I blocked Hannah and her family like I said I would. My phone stopped buzzing and the house was just peaceful. Then my dad texted again, out of nowhere, a longer message. He wrote that he started therapy. He said the word depression himself and it didn't read like a manipulation tactic. It was weird seeing him type sentences that didn't pivot back to me or mom or family. He said, "I'm sorry for what I did to you and your mom. I'm not asking you to meet me. I just wanted you to know I booked a therapist and my first appointment is tomorrow. I messed up. I'm going to try to fix what I can about myself." I stared at it for a long time and didn't respond. Mom saw me staring and just rubbed my back and said, "You don't owe anyone a reaction." 2 days later he dropped a letter in our mailbox addressed to mom. I didn't open it, I handed it to her and went to my room. I heard her open it in the kitchen and it was quiet for a long time, and then I heard that wet little laugh she does when she's crying but trying not to. I went back out and she had that red nose thing going on. She said it wasn't an apology that begged for anything, it was an apology that sat in its own mess. He said he's sorry for being a bad partner and father, and that he can't fix the hurt he caused but he'll stop pretending it didn't happen. He said he's not asking for me to forgive him or be friends. He said he's going to therapy for himself, not to win me back. She folded it up and put it in a drawer and made tea like that was that. She didn't look happy, just lighter. Like a knot loosened. A couple days after that, my aunt from Dad's side sent me a screenshot of Hannah's Facebook because apparently she can't help herself and posts cryptic stuff. A selfie with a suitcase behind her and a caption like "When the people you love betray you twice" with some broken heart emojis. Comments were flooded with "You okay hun and stay strong mama." I didn't reply to my aunt, I didn't reply to anyone. I don't even have Facebook. I only saw it because my aunt is like that. Then dad texted me again, just I moved out for a bit. I'm staying with Uncle Mark for now. Mom raised her eyebrows when I told her and said, boundaries have ripples. Then she made spaghetti and we ate in silence and watched a dumb show. Last week I caved and agreed to meet him. I don't know why. Maybe it was the way he actually stopped after I said stop, maybe it was the therapy thing, maybe it was because graduation is coming up and he asked once if he could come and then shut up when I said I needed time. We met at a diner we used to go to sometimes when I was, like, 8. He was already there at a booth looking absolutely exhausted in a way that wasn't performative. He had lost weight. He didn't do that overcompensating loud thing he does where he pretends to be fine and startles the whole room. He just said hey and couldn't look straight at me for a bit. I told him before I sat down, 30 minutes. He nodded and said okay. The waitress poured coffee and he didn't crack any jokes. He said his therapist told him to not explain anything to me, because explanations sound like excuses, and that was the first time I actually liked his therapist, whoever that dude is. He still explained a little, but not in the I had a hard day voice. He said I was lazy. I don't know what I thought a partner was supposed to be. I weaponized not knowing how to be helpful. I did it on purpose, sometimes not even on purpose, just on autopilot. I thought if I bought you ice cream it meant I was a good dad. I thought if I made money the rest took care of itself. I cheated because I wanted to feel like a good man without earning it. He looked like he wanted to crawl under the table after he said that. I asked him why he didn't just leave then. He said, because I didn't want to be the bad guy. I wanted both. And I was a coward. I told him none of that changes the past, and he said I know. Then he asked if he could come to graduation if he promised to sit far away alone and not talk to me if I didn't want that, and not bring Hannah or any kids. I said if he shows up alone and keeps it quiet, then fine. He said, thank you and didn't push. He paid and didn't make a thing out of it, and when I stood up, he stayed seated and just said, thank you for the time. I walked home feeling shaky and mad at him and also not as mad as I expected, which pissed me off more. Emotions are annoying. 2 days later, I got a voice note on Instagram because even though I blocked Hannah and her family, I didn't think to block her oldest account. It was her little girl's voice, I guess she's like 11 now, saying happy grad we love you big brother, and there was another little voice in the background repeating big brother and giggling. My stomach dropped and I saw red. I didn't even respond, I just blocked it and threw my phone into my pillow like that would help. I didn't sleep most of the night. It felt cruel in a way because kids don't understand why it's wrong. They are just repeating the script adults gave them. In the morning there was an email from my dad, subject line I'm sorry about the video. The body said, I did not ask for that and I told Hannah it needs to stop. I told her to keep the girls out of it and that I am not going to ask you to be their brother. If she does it again I'll go through the courts to put it in writing. I'm sorry, it wasn't long. It sounded like someone who actually understood the line. I sent back one sentence, don't let them use kids to get to me. He answered, I won't. Mom and I went shopping for my graduation shirt and she made me try on like 8 different ones while she had way too many opinions. On the drive home, out of nowhere, she told me she's been out to lunch with someone from work twice. She said she didn't tell me before because she didn't want it to be a secret, but she also didn't want to make it a big thing it didn't have to be. The way she said it made me think she felt like she was confessing. She looked at me and said, he's kind. He listens. He told me to tell you that he thinks I'm a great mom and that he hopes if you ever meet him you feel safe. I didn't know what to do with that information. I think my face must have done something stupid because she immediately added, I'm not asking you to meet him, I'm just telling you. That night I heard her humming while she brushed her teeth and I realized I haven't heard Mom hum in our bathroom in years. I went into my room and cried for a bit and then felt weirdly happy. Humans are so complicated, it's dumb. Graduation day came and it rained in the morning and then the sun came out like it was trying to make up for it. I told Dad if he comes, he sits up top and leaves after. He texted back a thumbs up. We did the whole cap and gown thing and our principal did his long speech about the future is yours and how we are resilient like he wasn't reading off a script he gives every year. I scanned the crowd exactly once and I saw him. He was way up in the bleachers, alone, baseball cap in his hands, not with Hannah or the kids, not with anyone. He clapped when everyone else clapped. He didn't wave, he didn't make a scene. After, my mom and my aunt and 2 cousins mobbed me with flowers and a balloon and we took silly pictures and she wiped mascara off my cheeks and said she was proud. When we got home there was an envelope in our mailbox with my name on it. It was a card that said you did it. Inside were 2 things. One was a slip of paper with I'm proud of you and the other was a ticket stub from the first baseball game he took me to when I was like 6. On the back he wrote, I can't take credit for this. You and your mom did this. But I'll be in the stands when I'm allowed, quietly. I didn't know what to feel so I put the stub back in the envelope and left it on my dresser. It's still there. Then the pendulum swung back because of course it did. Hannah messaged my mom. Not me. My mom. She wrote this long thing about how I'm alienating a whole innocent family and how her oldest is devastated and how my dad is regressing because I won't take his calls. She ended it with I hope you're happy. My mom showed me and said, do you want me to respond? I said no, block her. Mom did. Then Dad texted me from a different number, "I'm sorry Hannah reached out. I told her to stop. I'm changing my number." He also wrote, "I took leave from work." He said his therapist and his doctor put him on medication because he was sleeping all day and not eating. He said he's in a men's group on Tuesdays and a private session on Fridays. He said that out loud in text like a schedule on purpose maybe, like he wanted there to be proof of effort that wasn't emotional, just factual. He didn't ask me to say anything back. Here's another thing that happened that made me feel like I was living in a different timeline. My dad asked if he could send money toward my school stuff. Not tied to conditions. No strings, no photos, no dinners I get to earn. Just want to contribute. Tell me to go to hell if you want. I laughed at the go to hell line because it sounded like something I would say. I told him if he wanted to send money, send it to Mom, and we'll use it for my books and fees. No gift wrapped in guilt. He said done. The next day Mom showed me her account with a deposit and the memo said for his books. I think it was the first time money from him didn't come with a comment attached. That memo line weirdly meant a lot. I did one more thing that I didn't expect to do. I went to therapy myself. The school counselor gave me a list and I picked a guy close by because I don't have a car and biking in this heat sucks, but I did it anyway. The first session I just unloaded like a busted grocery bag. The second one I realized I talk about Dad a lot but also talk about what I learned to do for Mom that I wasn't supposed to have to do, and how that turned into me becoming an adult at 12. I said I have a hard time when men don't do dishes, and the therapist smiled and said, "That's not about dishes." We talked about how it's allowed to be sad and not just angry. I don't like feelings and I also like that after I talk I can breathe better. Hannah tried one last thing this week. She sent a photo to my email of the girls at some school performance and wrote, "Your sisters missed you today." I didn't answer. I forwarded it to my dad and wrote, "Make it stop." He wrote back within minutes, "I will." Later he forwarded me an email chain of him telling her to stop contacting me and my mom in writing, and he CC'd his lawyer. He wasn't nasty. He just said stop. This harms the kids and him. I'm not going to clap for him for telling someone to not harass me, but it was the first time I saw him choose the uncomfortable action without trying to smooth it with charm. The next day my aunt, Dad's sister, texted me, "I'm proud of you for your boundary." I don't know if she saw it or if he told her, but I didn't hate reading that. I don't want to wrap this up like a sitcom with a lesson, but stuff happened and it's weird and heavy and not all bad. My dad is not in my life the way dads are in movies. He's not even in my life the way he probably dreams about in that little boy fantasy of his from when he said he wanted a son. He's doing therapy and taking meds and, according to him, learning how to clean a bathroom properly because his therapist assigned him chores, which is hilarious and also satisfying. He said he wrote down a list of tasks and times so he can't forget. He told me he bought a laundry basket for every room because the "I'll do it later" guy needs no wiggle room, and I laughed because he deserved to have to trip over baskets in every single doorway. Mom took me to a diner 2 neighborhoods over last night and told me she's ready to introduce me to the guy she's been seeing when I feel like it. She looked happy but nervous and asked if it was too soon. I told her I need a little time but I want to meet him. She squeezed my hand like she was proposing. When we got home she put her head on my shoulder on the couch and we watched that house flipping show where everything looks the same at the end, and she fell asleep halfway through with her mouth open and snored like a tiny chainsaw, and I thought, yeah, we're okay. So that's the update. I said all the loud things I needed to say and the world didn't blow up. The consequences started happening to other people and I didn't have to lift them. I'm not suddenly healed or forgiving. I'm still not a brother to those kids and I won't be. But I'm not carrying this on my back every second. Sometimes I put it down. Sometimes I drink my coffee and it actually just tastes like coffee. That's new. And good. I'll take it. Update 3. I met Mom's guy. That sentence alone made my throat tight for like a week, and then he showed up on a Sunday with a bakery box and the world didn't catch fire. His name is Eli. He's not tall and not trying to be. He has the kind of smile where you can tell he smiles with his face at work all day and then saves the real one for later. He stood on our porch with his hands in his jacket pockets and asked if shoes off was a house thing instead of just marching in and tracking half the city onto the carpet. Mom introduced us in this voice that I haven't heard since school concerts, soft and kind and a little shaky. He put the box on the counter and said it was lemon cheesecake because your mom said you like sour more than sweet, which is a good sign. Who says stuff like that? He didn't go in for a handshake like he was sealing a business deal. He said I'm Eli and let it sit there. We ate the cheesecake at the kitchen table and he asked me normal questions that weren't tests. What I'm going to study, what I read for fun, if I've ever been to the weird little museum he volunteers at because it's free on Tuesdays. He didn't do that son prefix thing older men do when they think they're about to drop wisdom. He kept catching himself starting to offer to help with something, light bulb, squeaky cabinet door, and then would look at me or Mom and say if that's okay with you. At one point he got up to clear his plate and take it to the sink and Mom didn't move, and I didn't move, and he just did the dish. No speech, no gold star ceremony, just washed, dried, put it away in the right place like someone had explained cupboards to him before. And I wanted to cry and also laugh because apparently seeing a grown man wipe a counter correctly can short-circuit me. After he left, Mom leaned her head on the fridge door and did that tiny silent dance she does when she's trying to contain joy and also not spook it. She said, if you didn't like him I would have taken a break. I said, "You don't have to take a break from me," and then we both went quiet because we knew that's the first time in years she didn't automatically put her happiness on the last line of the list. I dreamed something weird that night where the kitchen was a swimming pool and all the plates were floating in lanes and someone kept putting them on the right shelf. My therapist would probably have a field day with that one. My dad asked if I would do one session with him and his therapist. He called it family of origin work. He promised no Hannah and no emotional hostage situation. I told him I'd think about it and then I took it to my therapist and said, "I'm scared it's a trap," and he said, "You can bring scissors." I said I'd go. I sent Dad my terms like a little contract, 45 minutes, I can leave early, no touching, I'm not there to fix you. He replied okay to each line separately like he was reading an ingredients list out loud. His therapist is a guy in his 50s who looks like every dad in a baseball cap but without the cap. His office smelled like peppermint and printer paper. There was a box of tissues in 3 different places like a scavenger hunt. My dad sat on the edge of the couch like he was afraid of sinking. He looked smaller than I've ever seen him. The therapist said hello like he was saying hello to both of our nervous systems, not just us. I didn't sit. I kind of perched in a chair by the door because I wanted my hand to be able to find the handle if it needed to. My dad started to say I just want to explain and the therapist held up a hand like a crossing guard and said, "Try again." My dad swallowed and said, "I want to hear him." Then we just sat there in the quiet and I realized I didn't know what I wanted to say because for once no one was interrupting to defend themselves. I said I was tired. I said I didn't want to be the person you call when your chest hurts because you didn't like your own reflection in the microwave door. I said I don't want to parent the man who's supposed to have been my parent. I said I will not be the moral police when your girlfriend doesn't like your boundaries. He didn't argue. He didn't do that thing where his face folds up like a napkin and then he turns into a teenager telling his mom she doesn't understand. He just nodded and kept looking at the carpet. The therapist asked him what he heard and he said, he doesn't want to be my emergency contact, and for some reason that made me laugh even though it wasn't funny. It was just accurate. Then my dad said something that knocked me sideways. He said, I think I liked that he was mad at me because it meant I still mattered to him. He looked like someone had just told him out loud what he was doing in a mirror. We sat with that. The therapist asked me what I need if we're going to keep any kind of contact and I said, consistency and boring, and my dad said, I can do boring. He actually smiled at that, a real tiny edge of the mouth smile, and then stopped like smiling was something he had to ration. He didn't try to hug me when we left. He said, thank you for being there. In the parking lot he asked if he could pay for one of my textbooks. He worded it like a question you ask a store clerk, not a demand. I told him to send it to mom again, same as last time, same memo line. He said done. He did it that afternoon and wrote for calculus, which made me laugh because I'm not taking calculus. He texted which class? And I said intro to psych ironically, and he replied fitting, which was the first time I felt like we shared a joke that didn't hurt. Here's where it got weird again. Hannah posted another Facebook novel, yes, my aunt cannot help herself, about men who abandoned 2 families with a picture of a porch light and some long paragraph about safe harbors. Then 30 minutes later my dad texted me a photo of a lease with his name on it and a set of keys on a butcher block counter. No caption beyond 6 months. He told me they're doing a trial separation, and he said he told her he won't have me in the same room with her or the kids and that the kids won't be told I'm their brother anymore because he finally understands what that does to everyone's brain. He said the words I made something confusing and called it love. He also said he's arranging his custody schedule with a mediator and he added not your business, just telling you there will be fewer fires. It was the first time he said not your business and didn't mean shut up, he meant I'm not going to make you hold this. I ran into Hannah's oldest at the grocery store anyway because the universe has a sense of humor. I was in the cereal aisle and she was picking out the kind with a cartoon vampire on it and she saw me and lit up and then froze like she remembered something someone told her and couldn't find it. She said hi in this tiny voice and I said hey, but I said it like a person says hey to any kid in a grocery store who has big eyes and 2 big sneakers. She said we had a play and I said I hope it went well, and then I walked away. I felt like I had swallowed a snow globe. When I got to the parking lot my hands were shaking so hard I had to sit in the car for 5 minutes and breathe. I didn't tell my dad because I didn't want him to pick another fight with her and make that kid pay for a chance encounter. I told my therapist and he said, you chose the kind thing without choosing the caretaking thing. It felt good and also terrible. A different kind of test happened 2 days after that. Mom's car wouldn't start when we were about to leave for my orientation thing and I had this knee-jerk thought to text my dad and then immediately felt sick because I didn't want to turn it into a morality play. Mom said maybe we should Uber and then she made this face like the old days, the face where she's about to apologize to the air for needing something. I called Eli, he showed up with jumper cables and a little battery pack like a dad in a sitcom except it wasn't a sitcom, it was just a person who has a trunk that looks like it's prepared for small disasters. He didn't make a big deal. He didn't take over. He showed me how to hook it up and then had me do it. He told Mom to keep the car running a bit. He didn't wink at her like he was about to submit an invoice for being useful. Afterwards, when we were in the car, Mom kept her eyes on the road and said very quietly, see? You don't have to survive alone to be strong. I looked out the window and pretended to be fascinated by a billboard, and then texted my therapist up fine. Orientation was fine. College is a big strange aquarium. I forgot how much I like being around people who don't know my life. I bought a stupidly expensive coffee and felt grown. When we got home, there was a small Amazon box on the porch with my name on it and no note. Inside were the most boring, amazing things: a cheap tool kit, command hooks, a toilet plunger in miniature like it was trying to be cute, and a roll of quarters in a plastic tube. The sender was my dad. He had set it up like an adult trying not to mess up a birthday. He texted no pressure to use any of it. I don't even know if dorms allow plungers. I sent back they allow disasters, and he wrote true. I weirdly kept the quarters in my desk drawer, and sometimes I look at them and get that tight feeling in my throat because it's money, but it's also permission to not ask anyone for help to do laundry. I'm unlearning and learning at the same time, and it's annoying as hell. Meanwhile, Hannah tried one more weird tunnel. She sent my mom a handwritten letter like it was 1992. It was all fountain pen drama about how the children deserve siblings and you're poisoning him against love. She put a pressed flower inside like that would soften the blade. Mom read it with the same face she uses to read instructions for assembling furniture, then she slid it back into the envelope and wrote return to sender and put it on the hall table like returning a library book. She didn't text my dad, she didn't spiral. She looked me in the eye and said, "Do you want to take a picture of that for your records?" And I laughed because my mother is the queen of receipts in every sense, and apparently that's genetic. I did take a picture and then I told my dad, 2 sentences. She wrote to Mom, "Please stop her." 10 minutes later he sent me a copy of an email to her and her lawyer and his lawyer that said, "Do not contact them. Any communication about me goes through me." I stared at the cursor on my phone and didn't reply, and then he texted, "You don't have to say anything," and that might have been the nicest sentence he's ever sent me. The aunt thing turned into a thing too. My dad's sister, the one who can't stay off Facebook, invited me to my grandma's 80th. She promised no Hannah, no kids, just cousins and cake. I said I'd come for half an hour if it didn't feel like a setup. She promised. I went. Grandma squeezed me like she was trying to wring water out of a sweater and then looked at my face like she was checking my fever. She said, "You look like your mother," which I loved, because I do. My dad was there, hovering by the deviled eggs like they might counsel him. He didn't come near me at first. He actually left the room when I walked in, which made me feel weirdly safe. My grandma found me on the porch and patted my hand with the papery soft hands old ladies have and said, "Your father never learned the inside work." His father didn't either. We thought his paycheck was love. I don't know why hearing her say that didn't make me madder. Maybe because she said it like a confession, not a defense. I stood in the sun with a paper plate and watched a bee try to commit to a flower and then not commit, and laughed because even nature can't make up its mind. My dad came out and stood 6 feet away like an old-timey gentleman duel and said, "I'm going back inside. Do you want me to stay out of your photos?" I said, "Yes," and he said okay, and then he actually did it. He left before the cake, which he loves, and I know that because I know him, and that made something hot in my chest cool down 1 degree. After, my aunt texted me a photo of me and Grandma and said, "Thank you for coming, and then we are trying not to pick sides anymore," which is the funniest line in our family history because everyone has been building forts out of sides since before I was born. But okay. Try. I had one night where Dad called me at 2 a.m. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail I haven't listened to because even seeing one on that icon makes my heart beat fast. In the morning there was a text that said, "Proud of you for not picking up." I called Mark. He came over. I stared at it and then sent a thumbs up because apparently we're both learning to speak in small stickers. Later he texted a photo of his kitchen whiteboard with a chore list on it. It said dishes daily, towels Fridays, bathroom Sundays. I said, "Your therapist made you a chores chart?" He said, "I made it." He laughed at me and then told me to add times, so now it says dishes 7 p.m. daily, which makes me feel like a robot, but the kind that finally works. I told him he deserves to trip over laundry baskets and he said consider me bruised, and I sat on my bed and realized my shoulders were down. I went to another session with my therapist and told him about Eli and the jumper cables and the whiteboard and the porch deviled egg duel. He said, "It doesn't have to be dramatic to be healing." Then he ruined my day by asking me what I want from my own life that has nothing to do with being anyone's son. I didn't know what to say. I told him I like the quiet right before the kettle boils and the first bite of food after you type the last sentence of an essay. I told him I want a life where if someone loves me, it's not because I'm useful to them. He nodded and didn't write anything down for a minute, and it made me uncomfortable and seen at the same time. Mom asked if I wanted to do a small dinner with Eli somewhere that isn't our kitchen so it feels like neutral ground. We went to this tiny place that used to be a pharmacy. It has cracked tile and a menu with 4 things on it, which is my favorite because too many choices make my brain go static. Eli and I talked about music and he told me his sister used to force him to listen to boy bands on road trips and now he knows all the harmonies and can't escape. Mom looked at him the way people look at the ocean when they haven't seen it in a while. They keep remembering it's there and get surprised all over again. When the bill came, Eli tried to pay and Mom said they could split it and he said, "Yes, thank you," without doing that fake chivalry because who am I if not a man who can pay for a sandwich performance. I watched him let her be an adult and I felt my chest do this weird light thing. I still don't want to be anyone's brother. I don't want those kids to have to untangle me from their story later like a chain that's been in a drawer too long. But I can also hold that none of this is their fault. Both of those things can be true. I feel like my life is a shelf with a lot of heavy books and I'm finally learning to space them out so the shelf doesn't bow. Last thing, I got a campus housing email with a roommate assignment. His name is Malik and he already sent a message saying, "Do you snore?" I snore, which made me laugh so hard I choked. He also wrote, "My mom wants me to ask if your parents are cool," and I stared at that for a minute and then replied, "One is very cool, the other is learning how to be boring." That felt honest without being a tragedy. He sent back a cry laugh emoji and same. I told my dad a week later that he can help carry one box to the dorm lobby if he wants, and then he has to leave. He wrote, "One box max. I will be invisible." We'll see. I believe him more than I used to. I don't forgive him. But I believe him a little when he says he can be invisible. Mom started humming while she did the dishes yesterday and Eli dried and I wiped the table and it felt like a little orchestra. No one was the conductor, which is maybe the point. When we finished, Eli handed me the towel without looking like he was handing off a baton, and I folded it and hung it on the oven door and my brain didn't light up like a pinball machine. It was just a towel. It was just a night. It was just good. I'll take it.